Hello, Canucks fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Canucks Conversation live from the iconic Sheraton Wall Center in downtown Vancouver. My name is Dave Quadrelli. That is Harman Dial joining me in studio. So is Jeff Paterson, who's going to be joining us later, but not yet, not quite yet. Before that, we need to tell you that today's episode is brought to you by our friends at HSBC World Rugby Sevens, which, if you didn't know, is Western Canada's largest sporting event, and this year is the 9th time that the event has visited Vancouver as part of the World Rugby 7 series. From February 23rd to 25th, grab your friends and your best costume and head on down to BC Place to catch 12 women's and 12 men's sevens teams, including 2 Canadian squads, take to the pitch for 3 full days of jam-packed rugby and partying. Tickets on sale now at vansevens.com, starting from just $40 per day. And if you want to go, maybe you don't want to buy tickets just yet, you got a chance to win with us because we've got 4-pack of tickets for the entire weekend to give away. We're going to be giving a 4-pack away each week leading up to the event. To enter, text #sevens, that's SEVENS, to 778-402-9680 for your chance to win. Like I said, we'll be giving one away every week until the event, and you won't want to miss it, folks. So text #sevens to 778-402-9680. If you want to buy tickets, vansevens.com. I feel bad for the people that had tickets to last night's game, especially if they paid like $500 for it. I genuinely feel for those people that bought it thinking they were going to get to see Connor Bedard, and then they see 9 Jason Dickinsons on the ice.
9 Jason Dickinsons, that would be a compliment to the Blackhawks.
That's a good point. They would have a lot of scores.
They'd be a way better team with 9 Jason Dickinsons.
There was 7 shots from Nick Foligno last night. And Jeff and I were joking on Rinkwide post-game. Check out Rinkwide after every Canucks game. We were joking that, I was joking that everybody looked like Jason Dickinson to me. Like skating stride, the way they play, no real skilled players. Everybody on that team just feels like Jason Dickinson to me.
Don't disrespect Jason Dickinson like that. You know what? You can call him like the Vancouver era version of Jason Dickinson.
Sure.
That's fair.
That's fair. You're right. Because Jason Dickinson is a changed man. He's a 4.5 millionaire now.
Crazy, isn't it?
Crazy. It is crazy. Okay. So yes, the Vancouver Canucks win 2-0 over those Chicago Blackhawks last night. 2 assists for Andrei Kuzmenko really early. Canucks get all of their scoring done in the first period and didn't need anything else from there as Thatcher Demko turns aside 31 shots for his 5th shutout of the season. Lots to get to here. I want to focus on Demko, but let's start with that second line. Let's start with Andrei Kuzmenko, who had another strong game, following up his strong performance against the Toronto Maple Leafs as well.
Yeah, first of all, I think for the win as a whole, this was one of those games I've talked before where sometimes you have teams that are legit contenders that know they're going to get into the playoffs. They end up playing a poor team on paper, and they do just enough to win and then just put it in cruise control. That's how it felt like watching the Canucks, where they go up 2-0, and then based off how heavily they were controlling play, you think, oh man, this is going to be an entertaining game. They're going to spend the entire night in the Blackhawk zone. But the final 40 minutes were pretty dry. The Canucks didn't play particularly well, but you could just tell they had put it into cruise control. There was no real threat with the Blackhawks coming back in that one. With the second line in particular, I mean, yeah, this was arguably one of Kuzmenko's best games of the season. I made a joke to JPET in the press box last night that he's a bottom feeder merchant. Kuzmenko loves his Chicagos and his San Jose's. Yeah. But no, you hope that this is a launching pad for him because you could see the difference in confidence. Part of it, of course, starting with how well he played in that Toronto game in that 10-minute stretch he had in the third period. I'm sure that carried over. And then to finally have a play where he makes that spin around and move and it ends up in the back of the net. There have been intermittent moments this season where he's made that type of flashy play. And whether it's been he's the shooter or he set it up for somebody else, it just doesn't end up in the back of the net. So even though it was productive, even though it looks good, it doesn't actually get the result that boosts a guy's confidence. And you could just see it the whole night, how elusive he was as a skater. One point I wanted to bring up with that second line as a whole. I think we agree that up until the Chicago game, by the eye, they haven't looked particularly great. I remember we had Wyatt on not too long ago, and that was a point of discussion. But if you look at the underlying numbers, since they've been together in just over 100 minutes, since the Lotto line was, of course, reunited, they've controlled 58% of shots and scoring chances together as a trio. That's Suter, Mikheyev, and Kuzmenko. So territorially, they're actually spending most of their shifts in the offensive zone. They're creating a fair number of chances. Now, the goals for and against, they've scored 2 goals, allowed 3. I wonder if part of our perception of them maybe not clicking up until this point is them maybe just being a little snake bitten, because ultimately they've only scored 2 goals despite racking up 39 shots and 18 high danger chances, according to Natural Stat Trick, which is a 5% on ice shooting clip. That's unsustainably low. So this is where I'm sort of caught, where for most of these games, again, I've watched them and I think to myself, I don't think they have it. I don't love their identity. I just don't think this is working. Yet maybe this is a case of a line that's actually doing quite well, controlling play, and maybe just needs more bounces, more pucks to go in.
So we briefly had this discussion off air, and I kind of countered it a little bit and said, well, my eyes can tell me that Ilya Mikheyev is not playing good hockey right now. So how much of it is they're snake bitten more so than they have a guy who couldn't hit water if he fell out of a boat in Ilya Mikheyev? Like that's how I kind of look at it. And of course, I'm being a little dramatic there, as I tend to do on this show. But in all honesty, like, the guy hasn't been able to finish this season. And, you know, he was never really known as this perennial finisher when he was in Toronto or anything like that. And, you know, we know he has the one breakaway move where he loves to go to the backhand. We've seen that his whole career. But sure, maybe snake bitten because they're creating chances. But how much of it is just that they haven't been able to finish and they need to start finishing those chances?
It's absolutely part of the equation. One thing I will say is we did see earlier in the year when Garland, Joshua, and Bluger, or actually it was first Suter, when they were first put together, that they'd control play and couldn't finish chances. Then they started to finish chances. Now, to be very clear, their best night of the season so far has been against the Chicago Blackhawks without Connor Bedard. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement, and I don't think they're quite on that trajectory that the Garland line is in terms of how well they've played. And I agree with you. I don't think Mikheyev's been at his best. I don't think he's been as disruptive as he can be on the forecheck, but it is at least a source of potential optimism that, hey, Kuzmenko has a couple of good games now. If he can keep that offensive swagger, and if Suter can start to finish a little bit more like he did early in the season, because keep in mind, even the goal that he scored, he almost whiffed that. Yes. I don't know if you noticed.
Yes, I was going to mention that.
And he's had a lot of chances, even going back to the Toronto game, that Suter just hasn't been able to bury that he usually can bury. Even if you have just Kuzmenko and Suter going at their best, I think that can be not a good second line, because it's not a second line.
The third line is a second line.
Like, you're at a point where if you have the Lotto line together, you basically have 2 third lines.
Yep.
And that can work if both those lines are clicking. So you just hope that this Chicago performance can be a bit of a launching pad for them.
Yeah, and once you add Elias Lindholm to this team, come on. It's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. Before we continue with this recap of last night's game, we got to tell you that this segment is brought to you by our friends over at Four Winds Brewing, family owned and operated in Delta. Home to the Four Winds Light Lager, a crisp, clean, and easy drinking beer. A beer for everyone, a perfect beer for before, after, or during the game. Ask for Four Winds Light Lager at your local liquor store, or have some delivered right to your door through the online shop at fourwindsbrewing.ca. None of us got Light the Lamp correct yesterday, but we'll do it tomorrow. My Juleson pick. It's going to happen one day. I want to talk about Thatcher Demko, who gets his 5th shutout of the season last night. In my mind, I'm looking at the Vezina trophy, and I'm thinking it is a 2-horse race between Connor Hellebuyck in Winnipeg and, of course, Thatcher Demko in Vancouver. That's how I'm looking at this race at this point, because, I mean, I've discussed this with Jeff a lot, so he's sitting right there. He's going to know exactly what I'm talking about because I keep bringing it up on Rinkwide. But these are 2 players who Hellebuyck didn't start the year great. Demko did. Demko took a step back in December. Hellebuyck was on fire in the month of December. And now I think they're kind of evened out. And now I think it's just going to be down the final stretch of the season, the back half of the season, you're going to start to see these guys just competing for position the whole time. I really, I don't think there's a clear number 3 for the Vezina right now, is kind of how I look at the race. I don't think there's a clear number 3. And I think a lot of us would have thought Igor Shesterkin would be 1 or 2. I don't even think he's a clear number 3 this season, which surprises me quite a bit. But I really don't think there's a clear number 3. Like Stuart Skinner might start to get himself in that conversation with what he's doing right now in Edmonton, but Stuart Skinner's not beating out Demko or Hellebuyck for the Vezina. Like, you can't win, in my opinion, you shouldn't be able to win a Vezina if it was wondered aloud if Casey DeSmith might be a better backup or better starter than you. Like, you shouldn't win the Vezina at that point.
It's definitely setting up to be that way, especially because the one goaltender that stands out analytically that is leading the league in goals saved above expected right now, Jacob Markstrom, he just doesn't have the team narrative going for him. Mm-hmm. And his save percentage isn't very high because Calgary is defending way worse than usual. So even though he's playing really well, there's, I don't think, a realistic path for him to enter the Vezina conversation. Tristan Jarry has generally played well, but Pittsburgh as a whole is not good enough.
It's funny, Harm, because it's almost the reverse of what we've always had in Vancouver. Swayman? Oh, Swayman. Yeah, Swayman's... But again, with Swayman, I go back to, okay, well, he's going to be... like last year was Allmark, right? Like Allmark got the flowers. This year it's Swayman. I want to see him do over a full season. Like, I want to see how long Swayman can keep it up. You know what I mean? Because you're right. Like, Swayman is probably the clear number 3 right now. I just don't buy that he's going to be in that conversation the way I know Thatcher Demko and Connor Hellebuyck are.
I'm a Swayman believer, though. I'll say that.
I like that.
A lot of talent there. If the Yotes are able to lock down a wild card spot, I think you'll see Connor Ingram get some votes, especially considering what he's been through. And Jeff will like this, former Kamloops Blazer. So you think of that team, like they are relying on him right now. We saw him, was it last week? Mm-hmm. And he's pretty solid in there for him. So, and I know some of the underlying metrics favor him pretty strongly as well.
Yeah, he's been fantastic. But again, we just threw out a bunch of names. No clear number 3. Not like any of those names are pushing for number 1 or number 2. It's just something interesting that I am kind of going to keep my eye on down the stretch here. It's going to be Hellebuyck or Demko that wins the Vezina. I'm very confident in saying that. And look, the GMs vote on this. And Jeff and I had this conversation last night as well, but the GMs vote on this. So my take is always that, yeah, it's very surface level. Like, I know people in Vancouver have wondered why Demko doesn't get Vezina votes, and it's because his team doesn't win enough. Yeah, it's simple. You need the counting stats. You need a high number of wins, you need a high number of shutouts, and you need a good save percentage, and you're getting a vote. That's all it comes down to, in my opinion. Like, that's what all it comes down to is, do you have a good save percentage? Do you have the most wins? Do you have the most shutouts? And right now, Demko's got 5 shutouts on the year. Hellebuyck's only got 2. So he's got him there. We'll see. It's going to be an interesting race down the stretch. Do you have anything you wanted to get to before we get to Jeff Paterson?
Just wanted to quickly bring up the ice times from last night. Nice. I thought it was a good job by Tocchet, manage it, and understanding the opponent, understanding that you have control of this game. Plus, the top guys had another off night. So Miller and Best are under 15 minutes. Patterson below 17, I think it was. I think it was Dakota Joshua led Canuck forwards in ice time. Nice to see the deployment spread out pretty evenly. Plus another strong night, I thought, for the fourth line as well.
Yeah, so what did you like about the fourth line? Because obviously that night against Toronto, hard to top that, right? But what did you like from the fourth line in particular?
Well, they're just hemming teams in. They're like dogs on a bone on the forecheck. The way they win battles, they support each other. Hoglander in particular, I think, is playing some of the best hockey we've seen from him. They were, I believe, on the ice when Quinn Hughes scored his goal. They were a big part of that. Funny, they seem to be on the ice for a lot of these dominant Quinn Hughes shifts. The one in Toronto as well, where Hoglander eventually scored. Hughes played a big part in hemming them in. So I just think they're playing their workmanlike game. They are responsible defensively. They're reading well off of each other. They're not making too many mistakes in terms of turning pucks over. They're just adding energy. And Tocchet spoke about it after the game that against a team like Chicago, you're relying on maybe your younger guys like Hoglander, Amon, less experienced guys that give you a little bit of extra juice and spark on a night where, let's be honest, Saturday was a really emotional game against the Leafs. It's hard to get up to play the Blackhawks without Bedard. That's where you lean on the fourth line to give you some energy, and I thought they did that quite effectively.
I'm very excited for anyone else because we have a couple BCHL questions.
Oh, no.
In there. Yep, we do. We got BCHL questions.
Oh,
so
no.
You know we're going to have to talk
Can
about
we ban these people in the chat?
Hey, that's Jesse C. Jesse C's a regular contributor.
Can't ban him.
Can't ban Jesse C. Okay. Without further ado, let's bring in Jeff Paterson, who was brought to you by Greta, the home of our electric watch parties. Greta is Canucks Army spot to catch the game throughout the season, during the playoffs, the Cup final, and also our place to chill in the off season. Jeff, brought to you by Greta. Are you going to come to Greta with us?
Do you have a day set?
We do. What's going on with the audio?
I don't get an echo.
I hear
We're good now.
All right.
Okay.
Has this been revealed? You holding out on me? I knew that there were plans in the works, but I hadn't heard a day yet.
Well, I keep accidentally leaking the date on the show. Like
you can only leak it once, right?
Well, do you know what I said?
It's out there.
Jeff, I said on the show, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna say the date, but it's between February 20th and 25th. And then I was like, wait, and I go look at the Canucks schedule, and there are 2 games in that span. So you have a 50% chance of being right. My new hint is that it's not a game against the Boston Bruins. So it's February 22nd. We're going to have a Greta event.
I'll check with my schedule and see if I'm free. If
There
it's
it
a
is.
Canucks game night, yeah, I mean, obviously we're doing rink wide, so we'll have to, you got to be able to watch the game so you can break it down. So we'll see. I just want to jump in quickly on the Vezina, and we did have this discussion, and I can't believe that you didn't reiterate my point that while yes, it's the GMs, they're goalie coaches, the
You're
ones
right.
that do the heavy lifting. But according to Betway, Connor Hellebuck right now is the prohibitive favorite. You can get Hellebuck at 2 even, Thatcher Demko at 375, and then a huge drop to Jeremy Swayman at 7.
Yeah.
And then beyond that, Cam Talbot is 4th as a long shot. His odds are 17-1.
Yeah, they're going to have to correct that with the way LA's playing right now.
But yes, it's a 2-horse race, and I think it's a lot closer than that betting board. Maybe it wasn't updated since the 5th shutout of the season for Thatcher Demko last night.
Yeah, because it was funny. We keep an eye on those odds all the time, and Demko was the clear favorite for a while there, and it does change. Obviously, the betting odds do change, but yeah, I just look at it and say it's a 2-horse race. And you're right. The GMs aren't just sitting there and looking at Hockey DB and picking themselves, but they also have opinions.
Sure. Oh, a bunch of them are former goaltenders themselves. They know a little bit about the position. I do hope as this goes along, the Canucks have 3 games left, all 3 of their games against the Winnipeg Jets. Like, I hope we get 2 at the very least head to head. Like, I hope they go starter against starter. The final matchup is game 82 of the regular season, which may not mean it might mean something, but it may mean absolutely nothing. So who knows what kind of lineup you'll get for that one. But Feb 17th here in Vancouver, a Saturday night. If these 2 teams are where they are right now, that will be popping at Rogers Arena.
Okay, so you were at practice today, Canucks practice. We saw metallic helmets. Can we pull these up, Grady? The metallic helmets from today, not chrome.
Not chrome. No, apparently the messaging from the hockey club is that these are metallic blue. And then there was some sort of discussion and debate about, is chrome a color? Is that why? And I'm no expert, but then I had some guy in my timeline weigh in, claimed he had a career in auto detailing and refinishing, and he was an expert. And he said that to his eye, these were chrome and not just metallic. So who knows? But the Canucks, the messaging that their marketing department is going with is this is metallic blue. And I have to say, when I walked in, and we had seen them tease it on that social media thing a month ago, and the end of January, it said January, coming in January. Well, we're getting to the end of January. So you had to figure that we were going to get a look at some point. I walked into the practice rink or to Rogers Arena for practice and did not hate at all. Like, I actually thought these were pretty cool looking helmets. And I'm not one that gets too worked up about black skate or matte black or whatever. I think if you win hockey games, the uniforms look pretty good. If they win the Stanley Cup and they're wearing pink pajamas, I think they'd look pretty good in those. Maybe they want to take my fashion advice. Whatever the case, I went in thinking a little gimmicky, seen the Kings, seen the Golden Knights, but I didn't hate these. And so the Canucks were also very clear to point out that this was just a breaking in of new equipment
Hmm.
day. They do not have a date yet for wearing these in a game. They don't have a commitment to that either. So if you thought, okay, well, the end of January and they're already wearing the black skate on Saturday against Columbus, that this is the game. No, I think it's just going to be conventional blue against the St. Louis Blues. But it would make perfect if ever there was a game against the Blues. This would have been it, I guess. But we'll have to wait to see.
Do it with the white uniforms. Do it with the aways.
So I'm glad you brought that up, because I talked to Red Hamilton, the trainer, in the locker room afterwards, because I'm a huge proponent. I think San Jose is doing this all the time now, where they wear the dark helmet with their white uniform out of the road. And I think it looks really good. And I think this would be a good look for the Vancouver Canucks. And as Red said, problem with these metallics is that they chip, and you don't take a whole bunch of replacements out on the road. And so you can fix them up and patch them up if you're at home, but a little different if you're on a 5-game road trip and you've taken the metallic helmets. So Dave, I like your thinking, but I also think you're going to be a little disappointed that if we see them in game action, it's probably going to be at home.
J-Pat, going back to last night's game, what did you make of the new look D pairs, specifically with Hughes and Myers together as well?
I made as much as the coaching staff did, because at practice today they were right back to Quinn Hughes with Filip Hronek and Myers and Zadorov. And so I would assume that it really was one night based on the opponent. They could experiment. You and I watched in the first period, and you leaned over to me at one point when it was Hughes and Myers with the Lotto line out there against the Blackhawks. Like, this is full throttle, it's go time. And the Canucks couldn't get out of their own zone. And it took them like 4 times of regrouping, and eventually Tyler Myers with, an errant pass out into the neutral zone, and the Lotto line got off the ice, and they essentially flushed 30 or 40 seconds of Lotto line time against the Chicago Blackhawks. And so, look, I have gone to bat for Tyler Myers. I think he's had a nice bounce back season. I think there's definitely a role for him on this hockey club, but he's not the partner for Quinn Hughes. And so, again, I had no issues with them experimenting against a team like the Blackhawks, but they are better off juicing their lineup and going, full tilt with Hronek and Hughes when they can. I think they wanted to see, what did that look like? Can they break them up? What can Hronek do on his own? But look, I was disappointed. And I think this comes from them raising the bar as a team and an organization this year. And I didn't need them to beat the Blackhawks 10-1 like they beat San Jose in November. But that second period, I mean, they had 3 shots on goal through the first 12 or 13 minutes. They had trouble getting out of their own zone, totally disconnected. They took penalties that would tell you that, with Sam Lafferty putting the puck over the glass from his own end, and then the too many men on the ice penalty. So I know your question was about the defense, but I say go back to what was working for you so well, because I didn't like a lot of what I saw from the Vancouver Canucks. Now, they were never threatened, and with Thatcher Demko, I'm not sure, the Blackhawks, if they'd stayed overnight and kept playing, I'm not sure that they were going to score a goal against Thatcher Demko with that lineup. And Dave, they're not all Jason Dickinson. They're all Joey Andersons, if they're anybody.
Yes, that's right.
But yeah, I mean, I just think we expect more from the Vancouver Canucks. We saw them let down a little bit against Toronto, and they got their 2-0 lead, and I thought they looked a little too comfortable for my liking. They have to be better, and they'll face better opponents, and they're going to have to find a way to play a complete game, because they didn't do that last night. They did enough to get out in front and then just kind of put it on cruise control.
Oh, you almost said cruise control, which
yeah.
I really like. I'm going to start saying
Not
that.
by design. But.
I'm going to do it by design. Okay, so we focus a lot on the defense, the forwards. Obviously, the Lotto line has had a lot of discussion around it in recent games. Last night, another kind of mediocre performance for them. What do you make of the Lotto line? And I know you and I talked about this last night. Maybe it's not quite time to split them up, because you've got all these other lines going for you right now, which who would have thought that that's what we'd be saying, but maybe not time to split them up. But any concern with the Lotto line right now?
No concern. I mean, these guys, when they're on, we've seen they're as good as just about anybody in the National Hockey League. They're not on right now. And it does sort of feel like some of the mojo has disappeared here. Rick Tocchet cited the record, though, since he went to that group in New Jersey, and he was asked after practice, are you going to stick with them? And he said, we're going to talk about it as coaching staff, but why would we break it up? Even if they're not going, we're still winning right now. And he said they take on so much of the focus of the other team. And I think there is some value to that, where if the other team is loading up to defend that line, then it should free up opportunities for other guys lower in the lineup. And we've seen the Canucks absolutely win those battles at the fringes pretty much all season long. So I would expect that you see Lotto line to start against the St. Louis Blues, the only team to beat the Canucks in regulation here in calendar year 2024. The Canucks, they remember that. It was referenced after practice today. So, they didn't play poorly in St. Louis, but again, that was the game before the Lotto line was put together because those guys weren't going individually then, and now together they haven't really been going. But I think some of it is Brock Besser's magic has disappeared too. We should point that out. 3 goals in his last 13 games, and I know there were a couple that were overturned in there, but we were talking about 50 goals. Now I think, can he get to 40? Yeah, but he's going to have to get back on his horse here. He's going to get to 30. He needs 3 to get to 30. So I'd keep riding them and give them an opportunity. The St. Louis Blues are going to be tired. They play in Calgary tonight, so the Canucks getting a break there. They'll probably see Joel Hofer, a backup goaltender. And then you got the Blue Jackets, another revenge game coming up on Saturday before the All-Star break. So am I worried? No. And I asked JT Miller about, is it just the dog days here? Is it just a lull? Everybody kind of goes through it. I thought I gave him an out, and he dropped it's not about us, man, earlier today. So he didn't want to talk about the struggles of the Lotto line right now, but I got a kick out of his very sort of determined use of man to let me know that he didn't like the question.
J-Pat, a season ago, Nils Hoglander couldn't earn Bruce Boudreau's trust at all. Felt like he had no confidence. Defensively, felt like he had no confidence. Offensively, in the middle of a breakout season, felt like the last couple of games in particular, he's been dynamite. Outside of just the goal scoring, what's stood out to you about Hoglander's game and why he's been able to take such a big step this year?
I love how fearless he is on the forecheck. And there were a couple of examples last night too, where, he always engages, like he gets into the battle. But I remember this from his first training camp. And then when he made the team out of that training camp in the All-Canadian division, it was like he wins way more than his share of battles for a guy his size. And I've always admired that about him. And it's not easy. Like, you're going up against the best of the best. These are elite athletes in the National Hockey League and guys that are way bigger and heavier than him. And we saw again last night that there were some opportunities. His ability, like when it looks like he's sealed off against the boards, and you still see like his motor is running and his stick is able to pull pucks out of skates, to keep plays alive, to extend plays. And, it's a skill. Like it's maybe not something you think about with, puck retrievals and those types of things, but it's just the fact that engine is always going. And then when he gets opportunities to finish, like he did against the Leafs the other night, the last 2 times he scored twice against the Rangers and against the Maple Leafs. He's up to 14 goals. And I did the math last night, like heading into that game, bottom 6 against bottom 6. And again, these are the Blackhawks, but the Blackhawks bottom 6 forwards as constructed last night had 15 goals total for the season. And Hoglander, of course, has 14 himself as part of a bottom 6 that has 51. So, not a fair fight in that regard. But I just like how there is absolutely no quit on him. And I think the confidence is there, to the point, guys, that I had the opportunity after practice today to ask Rick Tocchet, because I wrote about it on Sunday at Canucks Army and just said it's time. Like, this isn't going to change the complexion of the Vancouver Canucks, but you've got a 14-goal scorer, 4th on this team in goals scored, and he can't get a sniff of the power play where, Mikheyev doesn't have a power play goal. Sam Lafferty doesn't have a power play goal. Even Connor Garland doesn't have a power play goal this year. Like, how can you not carve out a little role on power play 2 for a 14-goal scorer? And Tocchet admitted that it is something they are considering here. But he said it's also down to fit. He says it's a lefty-righty thing. It's, is he a half-wall guy? Is he a net front? He said maybe it's time to find out. So he certainly admitted that the door is open. It's something that they have discussed. But in the same breath, he also said, we have to be careful because the way that we are deploying him right now is bringing out the best in him. And then he said that's the battle with coaches is, too much too soon. And he pointed out when he put him up with JT and Brock earlier this season at 5-on-5, he said it worked for a game or two, and then his play really fell off. So it was just good. Again, I applaud Rick Tocchet. You ask a question, he gives you an honest answer and, what he's thinking, and sort of invites you into his world. So I thought, decent explanation, put the question out there. Maybe we'll see Hoglander on power play 2 again. Whether we do, it's not going to change the way the Vancouver Canucks roll. But I just think as a little bit of shine and a reward for a guy that's had a terrific season, how can you keep a 14 goal scorer off your second power play unit?
When you tell me about answers like that from Rick Tocchet, or when Rick Tocchet answers a question so candidly and so openly, like, it doesn't get mad that you're asking if Hoglander should be on PP too. I always think back to, like, how would this coach have answered that? And, like,
right, because the question could be perceived by the coach, like, who are you to tell me who should be on my power play? And it wasn't that way. It was just, what would Nils Hoglander have to do to get some power play time on this team? And Tocchet took the question at face value and gave me a terrific answer. And so I absolutely appreciate that.
I think Travis would have given you a, what do you mean by that? And then tried to get into a little little banter back and forth with you.
Yeah, been there, done that a few times.
All right. Jeff, thanks so much for joining us. We look forward to you every Tuesday. And of course, we'll be breaking down ponderings. Have we said it's Patterson's ponderings yet?
I haven't heard that word in months.
2024. I thought I might bring it back.
Yeah.
Patterson's Point over at Canucks Army. Jeff Paterson, thanks so much for joining us.
Sounds good. Thanks.
That is Jeff Paterson of Rink-Wide Vancouver. And of course, Canucks Army Rink-Wide is available after every single Vancouver Canucks game. And you really want to check out last night's and tomorrow night's, because I'm on there giving my hot takes. Jeff cut my mic last night when I started talking about Tyler Myers as net front, but it was, I'm going to bring it up.
Should.
Yeah, I'm going to bring it up.
Jeff, having to deal with you 2 games in a row.
I heard there was a appeal process that's been started. All right. With that, let's get to anyone else presented by DoorDash. It's our listeners' chance to get involved and hit us up in the YouTube live chat. And it's also our listeners' chance to get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more. That's right. For a limited time, our listeners get 25% off and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when they download the DoorDash app and enter code NATION25. That's all capital letters, NATION, and the numbers 25 for 25% off, up to $10 value, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code NATION25. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms do apply. All right, what do we got here in the old YouTube live chat? We got a lot of people. Apparently Jeff's camera cut out at some point there, and people are blaming the intern Lachlan. Oh my goodness, Lachlan is catching strays. I don't think it was Lachlan's fault. I'm going to be honest with you, but sorry, I'm trying to scroll. There's discourse. See, this is the problem. I'm happy that everybody is in the YouTube live chat. I'm not trying to say stop talking in the YouTube live chat, but people get into these back and forths, which I get it. It's good. It's good that this is happening, but people get into these little back and forths, and we don't really get a chance to go read like an actual submission, because it's just this back and forth fight between a few people. And I could narrate the fight and read it out, but that's not what this segment's all about. Okay, I got one now. I had to buy myself some time. Anyone else from Jesse C? Kuzmenko on the last shift to defend the shutout must mean something, right? Tocchet is not risking that just to prop up a guy he's healthy scratched without remorse. Look, I said it. I thought Kuzmenko had a really great confidence-building game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Yesterday, I said it. If you're not feeling great, Chicago is a get-right game. Do whatever you want. You're probably not going to get scored on. That's what the Canucks did last night. They fell asleep in the second period, and Chicago couldn't score. That's your get-right game, and I thought that was a good one for Kuzmenko to have, and not only on the score sheet, but the one thing about Kuzmenko that I highlighted last night on Rink-Wide and that I wanted to highlight today as well is in the lead-up to that goal, and obviously the second goal, everybody saw the battle behind the net that he ends up winning and gets the puck to Quinn Hughes, who obviously made magic happen. So that'll be what we all remember from that. But in the immediate events before the first goal, Kuzmenko wins a puck battle in the neutral zone where I was literally just expecting him to stop moving his feet and to just concede and give up, right? And then skate to the bench and then find out when he gets there that that's his new home for the rest of the game. Fully expecting that. But instead, he stays engaged on the play through the neutral zone, makes a hard play to get the puck back, and then goes for a line change. And then, that was the shift. That was the shift before the goal, excuse me. And then on that goal, he had another play where he was strong in the neutral zone, strong away from the puck, and it led to a goal. And that's what I really noticed with Kuzmenko. And of course, the spinorama pass is great, but I really noticed him hard on the forecheck last night. I noticed him hard on pucks. Every time he had the opportunity to move his feet, he was moving his feet. And I am reading into it the same way that Jesse is in the YouTube live chat. That is a reward from Tocchet for how Kuzmenko played last night.
Yeah, there's also no risk from Tocchet's perspective. I know you're defending a 2-0 lead, but who are we kidding? It's the Blackhawks.
Mhm.
Tocchet, after the game, was asked about Kuzmenko being out there in the last minute of the game and sort of spoke about it's good for him to have the experience of learning how to surf. A guy was Tocchet's terminology, and Tocchet actually had credit for the way Kuzmenko played that final shift and sort of said, hopefully this can reinforce to Kuzmenko the message that we're telling him that, hey, this style can work in terms of this surfing concept defensively. So yeah, I think that was definitely a reward. The big question, of course, is whether Kuzmenko would be out there against any team besides Chicago or San Jose, but baby steps, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like you might have the itch, you can't, to send Kuzmenko to the AHL and let him lock down games against AHL teams. You rarely get that chance to do that at the NHL level, but they had the chance to do it yesterday. So it was basically like Kuzmenko was locking it down against the Rockford Ice Hogs. So he gets that
also,
opportunity.
If it's somehow disastrously 2-1,
yeah,
they're not going to score 2.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. If Rockford scores a goal there, you can put
the
out
real
someone
question
else.
is if it was a 1-0 lead, would Kuzmenko have still gotten that shift?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, man.
I don't think so.
I found it so funny. And sorry to harp on Jason Dickinson again, but I found it so funny that, like, all right, Chicago's got their power play out there. Who's their big bomb from the point where Bedard you should be, right? Like that one timer from the right point. That's where Bedard should be playing. It's Jason Dickinson. Like Jason Dickinson, a right shot, just like Connor Bedard. Same number of goals on the season. Isn't Dickinson right-handed?
He shoots left.
Shoots left.
Oh. Well, he's still on that.
Did you watch him at all?
I did. I'm telling you, everybody is Jason Dickinson to me. That's where I'm at in the season. And I'm watching the Blackhawks. Yeah, he does shoot left. Okay, I had to Google it. I don't know why I didn't believe you guys. Born on July 4th, I just found out Jason Dickinson. But anyways, you get my point. He's roaming the blue line. He's a big shot from the point. I'm like, yeah, you're leading goal scorer. I guess you do want to get him as many reps with the puck as you can. Damn, I can't believe he's not right-handed. That fit my narrative so well.
Well,
Damn,
it's funny
you guys.
because Alex Vlasic, I think, was on the top power play unit. And I think Vlasic's been a terrific breakout player. He's going to be a top 4 stud on their blue line for a long time, but he's a defensive defenseman. Like, he was drafted, and the scouting report on him was this guy has like 0 offensive touch. Now, he's developed some, but the equivalent of this would be like if Ian Cole was quarterbacking your power play. Like, is Vlasic and Jones together, and it's funny too because he had one rush where he actually nearly scored in the second period on that man advantage.
Oh man!
But I'm like, man, you're in a rough spot if Alex Vlasic is one of your main power play threats. This guy's supposed to be he's a 6'6" or 6'7" shut down, stay at home type of defenseman.
Yeah. And I won't lie, I had to Google it to make sure it wasn't Marc-Edouard Vlasic. I'm like, when did he go to Chicago?
Did you know? I said 6'6", 6'7". Did that not ring a bell?
No, not now. I mean, last night watching the game, I heard Vlasic. I'm like, Vlasic doesn't play for Chicago, but I was like, oh, Alex. I thought Alex Vlasic, because obviously I know who the player is. I genuinely thought he was still with Rockford. Like and that's the 5th Rockford Ice Hogs mentioned on today's show.
And they have Kevin Korchinski too. Like, you would think, why not get him some power play time?
He was on the second unit, I think.
Yeah, but I'm saying like switch the spots. Yeah. Anyways.
I kind of look like Kevin Korchinski. Like I looked.
Do you?
Yeah. Look at this. Look at this.
Does he shoot right or left?
Grady, pull up a photo of Kevin Korchinski.
I spin your laptop to the camera.
Will it show? Will that work?
No, it's way too far.
Yeah, pull it up. Find his headshot, his NHL headshot. I think I look like him a little. Like
a little.
I've gotten Troy Stetcher like all the time.
Yeah,
like people always tell me I look like Troy Stetcher.
Same height too.
Same height. Actually, he's taller than me. I pointed this out on the last show
no.
too. Troy Stetcher's taller than me.
What is he, 5'9"?
No, he's 5'10".
He's not 5'10".
Yeah, he's listed at 5'10".
Yeah, he's not 5'10".
Okay, then maybe because I am Connor Garland's height.
Yeah, or so you're like 5'7". Didn't Garland say he's between 5'7" and 5'8"?
Garland's 5'8", because I'm 5'8". I'm 5'8". And Garland, I might be a smidge taller than Garland, but like I don't think I'm taller than Stetcher. Although I never actually covered the team in person when Stetcher was on the team, so I've never stood next to Troy Stetcher.
I'm 5'10" and I'm taller than Stetcher.
Okay,
So he's not 5'10".
He's not 5'10" then. So it's like the same thing as Garland, where he's listed at 5'10" and he's not. So maybe I am the same height as Stetcher. I don't know why I believed that Stetcher was 5'10". We all lie once in a while about our height. I'm thinking of a bit where the NHL draft, they like ask you to fill out your profile, like it's a dating app profile. And Troy Stetcher's like, yeah, 5'10".
Well, yeah, that's literally what the NHL is. You just boost your height by 2 inches.
What else do they lie about on their dating app profile? Yeah, no, I really like to read books.
You're talking about the draft info. What questions do they even ask? I can't even remember.
Well, I mean, we know some of the draft questions. That's different. You don't get that on it.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking of a new bit where a person's on a dating app and they ask them the NHL draft questions. It's like, okay, I have a scenario for you. Your friends are stranded on an island. You can save them or you can fly away, blah, blah, blah. These crazy scenarios. Ask those on a first date just repeatedly, like an interview process.
That would go horrifically bad.
Patrick Waugh on a first date.
What? Where are you taking this conversation?
I don't know. Well, now I'm thinking of the Patrick Waugh, the Patrick Waugh dancing Demko story?
No.
Oh, man. So I think Demko told this story on Spit and Chicklets. And basically what Demko said was in his draft year, when Demko was with Boston College, he used to do this dancing Demko thing where in between whistles, after wins, Demko would dance in the crease. And Demko adored Patrick Waugh growing up, adored him. And he gets an interview with the Avalanche at the time. And Patrick Waugh sits down and instead of interviewing him, Patrick Waugh just rips into him for this dancing Demko thing. Like, he's like, are you insane? Like, what are you doing? And like Patrick Waugh had a huge issue with dancing Demko. So I think the way Demko framed it was, yeah, I basically got interviewed so that Patrick Waugh could yell at me and like they were never going to draft him.
I refuse to believe that story because I refuse to believe that Demko has any semblance of a real personality.
No, it got beat out of him, but yeah, it's true. And
now
true.
we know
like
why he never smiles.
Yeah, Patrick Waugh hurt his feelings once and it was over after that. But, and this is the context, okay? I looked it up. He said, when I was in college, it's something I did to keep myself in a good frame of mind during the game. I used to be pretty hard on myself. In between whistles, they played tunes and dancing kept it light for me. That was how Demko explained it. And I don't want to just rehash the whole thing, but you look at Demko and how he's actually grown as a goaltender now. I think earlier in his career, he may have been a little bit susceptible to getting rattled like that. With like the game that comes to mind is that one against the Toronto Maple Leafs.
I remember that game.
He lets in the goal. He's like looking at the bench. Demko wouldn't do that now.
Yeah.
Like Demko could let in the worst goal and it's right back in. Like he's zoned back in. No looking at the bench for a life preserver. Right back in it. Like, okay, I'm making the next save. And I think, look, as much as he's grown as a goaltender in terms of his counting stats and everything, he's really grown on the mental side as well, and kind of how he processes information during the game and having that short memory that goaltenders need to have. Okay, I don't know how off the rails I took this, but let's try to get it back.
Hold on. We just need to throw this up on the screen for 1 second. Separated at birth. Look at that.
Yeah, see, like I think it does. Like I do see a lot of
resemblance. You guys got the
there.
same haircut.
Yeah.
Especially.
Oh, that Sportsnet photo shoot. That was a dark time for me.
Man, the memes we could get.
Do you know what Mike Halford said after this? Because it was the Sportsnet photo shoot when we had the Sportsnet show, Faber and I. He asks on air, he goes, why was Quadrelli dressed like Ellen? Like Ellen DeGeneres?
Oh my God.
He says this without me ever telling him. My brother, who's older, so obviously he antagonizes me. When I had the long hair, he always told me I looked like Ellen DeGeneres.
I can kind of see it.
Well, Mike Halford brought it up unprompted. I don't think my brother and Halford talked to each other, so he just saw it too. So that's two people that have pointed it out, and that's part of the reason I got short hair now.
So you're a mix of Kevin Kurchinski, Troy Stetcher, and Ellen DeGeneres.
Yeah. We're not gonna go down that road, but yes. Oh man. Okay. How are we this off the rails? That's great, Grady. That's awesome. Okay. This one from Wallach. I haven't been to a game in a while. With the snooze fest yesterday and the past few years, how important is the arena production in generating atmosphere when the product on the ice is lacking it? It's super important. And I've heard people, Mike Gould was one of them, who come in and say, wow, the Canucks game presentation is fantastic. And I think they do a fantastic job. The only thing is, you still need the on-ice atmosphere.
Oh, yeah.
Because no matter how good your stuff is, it comes across as cringy. It comes across as forced when the team on the ice isn't doing anything. Like when you flash, make some noise, and the Canucks are down 5-0, and they're like 5 slots away from Bedard, and they're about to make a trade that's going to propel them up the standings so they don't touch anybody good in the draft, or in the top 5 of the draft, I should say. I shouldn't say everybody in the draft is bad, but you get what I'm saying. It comes across as cringy when, those dark years with Benning, and it's like, make some noise.
You know what I liked last night? I was at the game, and they had a little Lotto line montage from their Eastern road trip, and they had like all the coin slots jumping out. And then they showed some of the recent big hits from the Canucks. And it was just like all Ian Cole, JT Miller, and Zadorov. So in a boring game like that, like you have to have something to keep the fans entertained. And, they do a lot of those skits with like the kiss cam and just kind of like those mock, fake kind of scenarios that they do with, you see like a couple get engaged and then they flash back and there's like a new chick next to the dude. And sometimes it's hit, sometimes it's missed, but we're a tough team like Chicago. Like shout out to the game production crew, because I think they're pretty creative in what they do, and the whole marketing team I'm sure is behind that as well.
Jesse C, would Ellen wear that flannel? The flannel I'm wearing. Oh,
chick magnet quad, says Dr. Haas.
Yeah. People are gonna dig up the old quads photos.
Oh.
All right. Yeah, I do like the game presentation though. I've always thought it's been pretty good for the Canucks, especially in recent years. They've really, really stepped up their game. Okay.
Did you want to touch on the D pairs, or we move on?
Yeah. I mean, we talked about it enough with Jeff. I said it on Rinkwide yesterday. You got to go back to what works.
Yeah.
I wasn't impressed last night. Again, I understand there's fans out there saying, well, you got to see what Hronek does holding a pairing on his own. Do you need to? Like, I know the reason is, well, you don't want to have to pay him $8+ million if he can't hold down a pair by himself. But he makes your top pair so much better. Like, he makes Quinn Hughes better.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's a big part of that first pair.
The opening shift, J-Pat referenced it because I was literally mentioning it to him live in the press box, where if you watch it back, the Canucks tried to exit the zone 4 times. Tyler Myers had the final sort of puck touch to try and key the breakout 4 times, and they didn't get out and gain the red line until the 4th time. And by the time they did, they had to get off for a line change. Now, Myers wasn't horrible last night, but he single-handedly on the first shift of the game wasted a lot of line shift with Quinn Hughes on the ice.
That is a great way to put it. That
Philip Hronek doesn't do that.
Yeah, that line is a 5-man unit. Like Lotto line with the Quinn Hughes Philip Hronek pairing, that is a cheat code. And immediately it becomes like a 10% off discount instead of a cheat code when you put Tyler Myers on that pairing instead. And that's not I guess it is a knock on Myers. I should say it's not. But it's more of a testament to how good Philip Hronek has been this season on that pairing. He's had his warts. Don't get me wrong. But he has made Quinn Hughes better. Like, Quinn Hughes called him the best partner he's ever had. Yeah, he might be. Like, he very well might be. Anything else on that?
No, not on that topic specifically.
Okay. We'll get to this one and then we'll get to Betway and get out of here. This one from Kron. Should they put Petey back with Kuzmenko, both as a reward for Kuzi, but also the Lotto line is slumping? I say give it one more game. Give it St. Louis. If the Lotto line struggles and Kuzmenko's another confidence boosting game, think about it. I don't think you have to react immediately, but I think it depends on a lot of different factors. Again, let's see how the Lotto line does against St. Louis, who you presume they're going to have to be better against.
Yeah, I like that idea. I think, especially just because the team's been winning, it's hard to break up lines when the other trios are finally starting to get going. You don't want to mess with it too much, but yeah, we're going to see over the remainder of the homestand whether they can get it going. Otherwise, if you lose, the moment you lose a game and the Lotto line continues struggling, there's going to be that discussion about, okay, we got to break this up potentially.
Yep, absolutely. All right, let's get to Betway. Oh, Disto in the Twitter chat said Quad's long hair was more Patrick Swayze. I like that. You ever seen what's that movie called? Dirty Dancing.
I haven't.
Great movie. Dirty Dancing is an awesome movie. You should watch it for sure. Patrick Swayze. Hudisto says, looks like me. I'll take that. I'll take that comparison any of the day. I don't know if I agree with it, but I'll take it. Okay, let's go, Grady. Betway. Bet of the day brought to you by our friends over at, you guessed it, Betway. I got a new wagon. Did you see this last night?
Oh my
The San Jose
goodness.
Sharks took down the LA Kings. The LA Kings were such heavy favorites going into that game. Like, I think I'd have to go back and look. I'm pretty sure that the Sharks have better odds at beating the Rangers tonight than they did at beating the Kings last night. The Kings tied it up late to send the game to overtime, and then San Jose took it in a shootout. Their two shooters scored on no save Dave Riddick. And then, they won in the shootout. And I don't know, man. I might have a new wagon in the Pacific. In the bottom of the Pacific, there might be a new wagon.
You don't want to pick them as a wagon, though. Like, I'm talking about this bet, but
We'll see.
Anaheim's at least a good wagon to hit your
But
horses
San
on
Jose
because-
last night was a wagon.
No, they weren't.
They beat
I don't
the
care
Kings.
that they won.
The
Look,
Kings suck. Did you see Todd McClellan talking about PLD?
in 2 to 4 years,
Yeah.
you'll be able to dunk on everybody considering how early you were on the Ducks wagon.
Yeah.
2 to 4 years from now, you'll still be pleading to me that, my wagon Sharks are going to be better one day.
Dude, I'll
They're
tell
still
you
going to be in
two
the
names.
basement of the NHL standings.
I'll tell you two names that are going to take them to the promised land.
Who? Mark Edward Vlasic?
No, that's Alex Vlasic. Not Logan Couture. What's that kid's name? Zetterland. I like him. And what's the other one?
I like him as a third liner.
William Eklund. Eklund's good.
He's fine.
Fine. Speaking of fine, pull that bet back up. San Jose Sharks are visiting the New York Rangers tonight. Let's pull it up. $10 bet at plus 260 odds over at Betway returns you $36 over on the money line. Must be 90 plus to play. If you choose to play, please play responsibly. So maybe don't bet on the Sharks, but maybe in 2 to 4 years, that'll be a good bet.
It won't.
Hey,
We'll
if they
see.
get Macklin Celebrini,
That's right.
Bay Area kid, although he's from North Van.
Could you imagine Chicago getting Bedard and Celebrini? Although I have
Stop
draft
it.
takes that I'm going to
No.
save. I'm going to save my draft takes.
Chicago better not win. That would.
Do you wanna hear-
that'd be
local boys.
painful.
Do you want to hear a hot take based on absolutely nothing?
Sure. I mean, that's just like doing the show every day. So go ahead.
I don't know if I buy that Macklin Celebrini is going to be like a top elite center at the NHL level.
Are you crazy?
I threw it out there.
Why?
I can't tell you.
What do you mean? Like,
I'm
give
gonna,
me some reason.
I'm not trying to just be a poop disturber here.
He's got some NCAA projected analytics under wraps that
Well-
he's not proprietary data he doesn't want to share.
So
No.
he doesn't even turn 18 until June, and he's got 16 goals and 32 points playing for Boston University in the NCAA.
Yeah, no, I don't know. I
You
have
don't
to,
know.
I genuinely told you.
throwing spaghetti at the wall.
I
eh?
don't know if this is gonna happen, but all I'm saying is in his draft year, everyone's like, this is the Shane Wright draft. Shane Wright is gonna be so good. And I wasn't banging on the table for Slavkovsky. I just said, no, this draft year just sucks.
Just
I
say
think a
you're
lot
a
of people
Cole
are saying
Iserman
that.
truther.
No. Sorry, Harm. I did a show with Chris Faber. All I heard was, this kid's great.
No, well, dude, that wasn't the consensus, man.
Of course it
Everybody was
was.
talking about Wright. Wright was the favorite to go 1, but everyone agreed that he was like multiple cuts below the average number 1 pick.
Sure. No. I'm saying everybody gets excited about the draft no matter who's at the top is what I'm saying. And that's what annoys me. I think there's like one draft every 10 years that's actually worth getting excited about. The Bedard one was one. I don't think there's been any in a while.
Okay,
Like Jack Hughes.
Yeah, that's a good number 1 pick. No one's saying that's. Let me put it this way: no one's saying this draft class is amazing, or that Celebrini is the next Bedard, but he's going to be a really good number 1 center.
Yeah, that's fair.
He's not. Let me
We'll
put
see.
it this way: he's not Shane Wright.
Sure, he's not Shane Wright.
People were talking about Shane Wright as like, if he hits the ceiling, he might be Ryan O'Reilly.
No, they
Come
weren't.
on, yeah, they
No,
were.
I'm gonna have to go back
Dude,
now.
you don't do.
You're
you
gonna
don't
make
do
me go
draft
back.
research. You don't do
No,
draft research.
you know what I do, Harmon? I go on Twitter and I see all the draft people talking
he
about.
steals everyone else's draft rankings.
I
and
see all the
puts it as
people
his.
on Twitter being like, this guy's great. This draft, this is the Shane Wright draft. All this, just
No.
A couple of YouTube highlight packs, a couple of Bob McKenzie,
No,
Craig Button
and
draft rankings, and he's good to go. He's a prospect expert.
I focus more on the goalies, obviously. Like I do my own research on the goalies, but like just All I'm saying is I rarely get excited about drafts anymore because I've been
Doing
disappointed
his
too many
own
times.
research.
The Lafreniere draft, I'll give you that. That was an example of a hyped up number one
There you
pick
go.
that didn't work out.
Yeah, so you agree with me.
But the Shane Wright draft was not hyped up.
It was though.
It wasn't.
It was.
Going into the draft year, we heard about him, but
Yes.
once the draft year hit, the stock started.
Sure,
to fall
yeah,
flat.
started to slip. But all I'm saying is we're in
He was
that
an
stage.
exceptional player.
We're in that stage with Celebrini right
Dude,
now.
he's 17 years old and is nearly a goal a game
I
in
know.
the NCAA.
Playing against men.
He's not playing against men. He's playing against college students.
Other men.
What are you talking about?
21-year-olds.
21-year-olds aren't men.
Yes, they are. That's an adult. You can buy a
When
beer
you
in
say
the United
playing with
States.
men, you're talking about playing in men's leagues.
23, 24. You
You're-
know, you come back for your fifth season.
You're at
Absolutely.
Slavkovsky,
You
or
are
whatever
so
that guy's
wrong
name
about
is.
this.
No, whatever that guy's name is, Slavkovsky. He was playing against men. How'd that go for him? Those
Yeah,
are
but he's
actual
playing
men that he's
like
playing against.
8 minutes a night in pro hockey league. That doesn't count.
Also, his hockey DB page says Max Celebrini. I didn't know he went by
Mac.
Mac.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you not watch what he did at the World Juniors
No, I did. And yeah, like I've seen a lot of guys play well at the World Juniors.
against
I'm not
his
getting
peer
into-
class?
Yeah, I'm not getting into
Below,
this.
that's a 19-year-old tournament,
Oh, I
and
love
he was
streaming.
by far Canada's best player.
That's great. I've seen a lot of Canada's best players suck at the NHL level. I'm just saying. I'm just saying
Fair,
that I'm
it's a
not.
small sample.
I'm not yet hyped up. That's all I'm saying. And I refuse to get hyped about a draft class until like I'm ready to. And I'm not ready to.
No one says you have to be hyped that this is
Yes,
like
they
a
do.
once in 5 or 10 years draft class. This is an average draft class. It's
Jesse
not-
says my Faber impression's very good, which I like. I've never heard anybody say I have a good Faber impression.
You love your impression.
I do. I do some good ones. Cody Severson, he said more like Suckland Celebrini.
Oh, burn, Cody.
Juraj Bustkovsky.
Slavkovsky was. I did not like that pick when they made it.
Who goes first overall in a redraft that year?
Oh, jeez. Are we
It's a
really
good
doing
question.
this? What happened to
Logan
us?
Cooley?
What is that draft class again? 2020.
Oh, Logan Cooley's good. I like Logan Cooley, probably.
Yeah,
but
he
again,
started hot, but he
I'm
hasn't.
not
been-
excited about that.
Again, I'm telling you, I was not for 1 second excited about that draft class. I'm not
That's
saying
fair.
I'm excited about this draft class. I'm
Yeah,
just
but
telling
you're
you,
not-
Macklin Celebrini is
I'm
going to be a
talking-
good number one center.
No, Harmon. And I didn't want to have to spell it out this clearly, but I am talking about the people whose their niche is covering the draft. And I mentioned Faber, obviously,
Okay.
but Faber did other stuff. I am talking about the people trying to sell hockey fans that every draft is a great draft.
Okay, yeah, that's fair.
That's who I'm really taking aim at.
okay, fine.
And I'm just saying I'm not, like Owen Powers the year before that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that draft wasn't great either.
No, but again, same thing. Like no
you
one
gotta-
talked about that as a good draft class.
They did. They
And
were
you
like
gotta
elite
forget-
eight. Oh
you guys,
my gosh.
you can't forget this. We're coming off a generational player, some might say Connor Bedard, but one of the best draft classes in a long time, right? So you got to kind of look at what we're working with here and compare it going forward. You had Adam Fantilli last year. You had Mishkov. You had Bedard. Like, not every draft is going to feature, franchise center, franchise winger, arguable generational talent. And we'll see how Bedard, his career shakes out.
People are disagreeing in the chat about what a man is, what age you become a man. I'm just saying when it's true. I'm right. When we say playing against men, we're talking about playing in men's
Yeah.
leagues. So little different.
Professional.
Yeah, exactly. Like
But
the
there
SHL,
is-
like
it
Elise
is-
Patterson.
It is definitely NCAA is tougher than junior though.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. Yeah. Clay Stevenson was in there. Oh, I didn't get to the BCHL question. We'll save it.
All right, that's it.
That's it today.
Thanks for watching, folks.
We'll save it. We will talk about it. It's actually the AJHL stuff.
Oh,
it's
yeah,
actually
that's actually
it's
interesting.
actually
That's
pretty
actually
interesting, and we
interesting.
will talk about it. I don't want to just talk out of my rear, which I've been doing a lot of today. So we'll do that on a future show. We'll talk about the BCHL and AJHL kind of merger with those 5 AJHL teams going to the BCHL. But for now, we'll close it out there. For my co-host Harmon Dowler, our technical producer Grady Sass, and our intern Lachlan Irvin, my name is Dave Wujelli. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Canucks Conversation. Canucks Conversation with Harmon and Quads every weekday at 2 p.m. Be sure to check it out on the Canucks Army YouTube channel. And if you missed it, go check it out on your favorite podcast catcher app.